Welcome, welcome back to Speak Pact. So thrilled that you are here again with me today. You're coming back because there's some great stuff in store for you, and you know it. So today I have the infamous Dave Molenda with me, and he is pretty fascinating. He's going to share with us his approach with something he calls positive polarity. As a matter of fact, he is CEO of a company with that name. He also, it's a business coaching firm, and he really has some unique approaches to not only business growth, but also personal growth so that your business can grow, right? A business only grows as much as the one in charge grows. So love that. He has a book, Amazon best-selling book called Growing on Purpose. Really great book. I encourage everybody to take a look at it. And he is the host of the Positive Polarity podcast, which I have had the pleasure of speaking on. So we're going to dive into some fun stuff. Thank you, Dave, for being here with us today.
Absolutely. Thanks. I'm honored to be hanging out with you and all your guests and your listeners and watchers. So, welcome to the show. Great show. Thanks for having me on.
You are so welcome. I'm excited to dive in with you. I first would like to know what does positive polarity mean? What does that mean to you?
Yeah, it's a great question. Well, I have to say, when we were naming our company, there may have been margaritas that were involved in it. I'm just going to say maybe,
That comes up with the best
right?
names.
And I love being positive. I think in addition to it adding lifespan, in addition to it really being positive to other people around, it just feels better, right? I mean, most of us don't want to be around negative people, so I wanted to make sure that the word positive was in my next company name. And then the polarity piece is it's action, it's movement. And so there was just positive movement. And so positive polarity stuck way better than negative polarity. So, just it's stuck, and it's been 12 years now. So again, I'm honored to be hanging out with you today.
Well, and I know you understand the power of voice. I mean, you wouldn't have a podcast if you didn't, and you wouldn't be writing a book because that's just another form of your voice, right? You wouldn't have a best-selling book. So tell me, how important is the utilization of speaking and our voices in business growth, which is your wheelhouse?
Yeah, absolutely. And it depends really. I mean, again, a lot of your listeners are emerging speakers, people that maybe have thought of it, maybe they don't think they have the skill to do it. Some people probably want to do it full time. Some people want to use it as a growth tool. It's a great way, to be able to actually get your message out there. It's actually, as you know, it's really fulfilling to have a room full of people and to be able to share with them, some insight or wisdom that maybe you've gained over the years. So if you're trying to grow a business, obviously you need to get in front of the right group. And you can do that in a variety of ways. And I chose, writing a #1 Amazon best-selling book. And I also chose, we're about 250 episodes in on our podcast right now. So, those were just a couple ways to get in front of the right group of people. And again, the thing is, we got to call you A, which is awesome. I think the thing is that most people are looking for these quick hits, and I haven't found them. So if anyone wants to email me, I'd love to learn them. But most of them, if you're trying to speak in front of people, the person that's putting you in front of them, the organizer of that event, so to speak, they want to make sure that you're legit. And there's something very comforting for them knowing that you've written a #1 Amazon best-selling book. There's also something there when you're, into podcasting as far as we are. So that really helps gain credibility from the organizer's perspective. And quite frankly, you can invest that amount of time and really not be an expert on the topic. So those two things really are two great reasons for us that we chose these routes that we did.
Right. Business growth and growing as a speaker, right? Growing in recognition as a speaker, I think go hand in hand. And they all have the same foundation, and that's understanding who your audience is, right? Who those best fit people are. When
Right.
you're speaking to your clients, How do they figure that out? I mean, they might have an idea of who those people who are going to best resonate with what it is they bring to the table are, but what are some tips and insider strategies that you use to really pinpoint this is who your best fit
Sure.
prospect is, and this is how to reach them?
Yeah, absolutely. It's a great question. For most of us, hopefully we have some list, whether it's in our mind, it's written down, it's on a spreadsheet, it's somewhere, of people that we would love to target. I call it my 10 most wanted. And I have on my board right there 10. Actually, we have 11 because we just wanted to be thinking outside the box. But I have 11 people that I want to get in front of.
Overachiever.
So, right, exactly. So I look at that and I think to myself, okay, what's the commonality there? Is there a commonality? And I start to see them being business owners. I start to see them being entrepreneurs. And so my thought is, again, I could try through social media. I could try through a variety of other ways to actually, get in front of them. And I've been finding the success is letting them gain from me. I'm here to serve them. So let them gain something from me, whether it's by listening to a podcast, whether it's being on a show like yours, whether it's standing in front of a group of people that are like-minded. I'm open to any of those because I just want to get my message out because, like I said at the beginning, if we can just get one person to change, you and I talked about that. If we can just one person to kind of get this course correction in their life, it's sure worth it. And so again, and to multiply that by 10, 20, 100, depending on how many people are in your room, is just really a great opportunity to grow your business.
That multiplication factor is so powerful. So powerful. I'm glad you brought that to the
Yeah,
room, Dave, because obviously you've got something right. You've got a massive following, really strong podcast. Your book is not collecting dust, right? You're striking a chord for the people who resonate with what you offer, right?
right.
And so that attitude, I think, is so good because I do hear a lot of speakers, especially, say, oh, if it's not a paid engagement, I'm not interested. Well, every engagement is a paid engagement. It just depends on what
Sure.
exactly is the currency of that engagement, number one, and
Right.
how are you really working it, right there.
Yep.
So I think half the battle is in the mind of how you see it. Well, one person, like you just said, can really become 100 different people.
Yep.
You reach that one person and so much momentum can happen just right there. So for every time you speak, for every time you get your voice out there, and all the different ways that you can get your voice out there, you are creating that forward moving momentum that, like a snowball, it's just
Right.
going to build on
Yep.
itself and build on itself. And when people underestimate the power of that, that's when they're just, this isn't working.
Right.
It's just not working. I'm just going to give up.
Yep. Yeah, no, and I just was coaching somebody earlier today, where they did something once and they didn't get the outcome that they wanted. It wasn't a speaking thing, but it was an event, and they didn't get the actual outcome that they wanted. So they shifted, and I'm like, boy, trying something once really is not an effective, way to really decide if this is a long-term success or not. We do a monthly event, and it started with 3 people, and we're up to 40 that just show up every month. And out of that, people are networking, and but if I would have looked at that and said 3 people, I'm not going to speak to just 3 people, right?
Yeah.
Consequently, I had another event that it was part of an association, and there were only 3 people in the room. And let's just be real, okay? That's very disheartening. So I'm disheartened, and I'm like thinking about this, and I'm like, Lord, I got to make this work. So I'm just like, I'm going to do it as if the room is full. Oddly enough, 2 people of the 3 actually became clients.
Wow.
So you never really know exactly where you're looking. And I've had to learn the hard way to not look at numbers. I've had to realize that, you know what, there'll always be the Joe Rogans in the world and the podcasts who get millions and millions of views. every week. And I'm like, why isn't that me? And I have to get that out of my mind, because that really turns this into a bad experience, because all I care about are numbers, numbers, numbers. And all I care about is one person's life transformed, and the whole thing was worth it.
Ooh, yes. And what the power of that kind of energy versus, oh, only you three showed up. They got to feel that, right? Ah, you're disappointed that I'm here.
Yep. Yep.
Versus you're really delighted that I'm here. You're excited that I'm here. I think that energy piece is just it's a very strong thing. I love that story you shared. I have another story to kind of piggyback with that. So there was an engagement that I was invited to speak at, and I was super excited because by the time that I accepted, they said 6,500 people had already registered, and that
Wow.
they had expected 8,500 people in total. And there was like 2 more months that was going to be happening.
Sure.
Um, I'm gonna continue this in just one second. Okay, the beauty of tech. So we get there, and all you're seeing are exhibitor lanyards.
Oh, wow.
I mean, you didn't see any
Sure.
people lanyards,
Yep.
and it
Yep.
was just like a gorgeous hotel. I had to travel halfway across the U.S. Beautiful hotel. They got the archways right. They got everything right. Right. They'd taken
Sure.
over this very expensive hotel, which, by the way, cost a lot just to even park
Sure.
there and,
Yep.
and be
Absolutely.
there for the 3 days. But all of that to say, they weren't forthright. So they had sold chunks of tickets to corporations who gave the tickets away for free to their people.
Sure.
That does not equate to selling 6,500 tickets. People with a free ticket aren't going to necessarily go to this expensive hotel for 3 days
Yeah.
and do the thing. Anyway, so everybody was revolting. It was kind of fantastical to see the the exhibit room. These people came from all over the world thinking there was going to
Mm,
be all those kinds of people, and
sure.
costs a lot to ship their products, all the things. They're revolting. Everybody's revolting. And I'm just like, I'm here. I'm going to make the best of it. Couple good things came out of that. Number one, I expected 1,000 people in front of me, right? I had
Yep.
10 people in front of me, three of which were my own speakers that I brought along because I'm a speaker agent, as you know,
Sure.
and as most people on this podcast should know. So three were my own speakers. So really seven people in front of me when I expected at least 1,000.
Yeah.
Um, but that wound up being, I have to go back and look at the math. I'm pretty sure it was like a $33,000 engagement for me
Sure.
from the people that I had wound up speaking to,
Yeah.
like resonating with in that very small audience. And it is easier to your conversion rate goes way higher in a smaller audience than in a bigger
Yeah.
audience because it's easier to connect and
Sure.
interact and all of the things. So it was really heartbreaking for me to see some other speakers on some other stages who they too had the dismal numbers, right? Which to me, 10 was, I was one of the lucky ones. Most of them were getting like one, two, or none.
Yeah.
And there was this one speaker in particular that I was wanting to go see, but couldn't because I was also emceeing. But my three speakers that were there went and saw her, and I think there was two other people in the room, so she had like five people there.
Mm,
And but she was super interesting, and she was really resonating with that
sure.
room. But she was so disheartened that she didn't even say how to get a hold of her, next steps. I think she was just getting through her talk and getting out of there. Right? She was
Sure.
that
Yeah.
upset. And even one of the other ladies lifted, well, what's the next step? What do we do? Oh, here's my Facebook, right? Or something. It was just
Right.
like,
Yep.
does she understand that that could have probably for her been a pretty profitable speaking engagement, but she kind of
Right.
threw it away because it wasn't what she expected. I think as speakers and business owners, we have to have that flexible mentality where I'm going to roll with this. I want to make the
Right.
very best because it's hard to predict any of these kinds of things.
Absolutely. Well, and it's a tough question to ask yourself, why are you there? Because if you're there to fill a room, if you're there to feel like you're going to move the masses, that's, that's not right or wrong. it's speaking to me, it's kind of coming from the ego side. I'm there to serve somebody. I don't know who that is yet. It might be the conference organizer. It might be one of the people in the sound. I've had plenty of times where the sound guy or girl comes up and is like, oh my gosh, I really needed what you just said, you know? And so I don't know where this is coming from. And I feel like I'm at the right place in the right time. And I made a huge mistake early in my career where there was like breakouts all along, and I stood by the out in front and, you know, waiting for people to come, and people kept going to all the other rooms, and then some people would come to me and where's this room, and it was like such an ego, like just a killer. And I finally, halfway through, you know, the time before the event, I just got out of there. The room eventually filled and life was good. But I realized how fragile this can be, and I need to be as positive going into this as possible. So I'm hoping everybody listening has kind of got some type of cadence that they use to really build themselves up, whether it's breathing, whether it's positive thinking, speaking it out loud, whatever that is, but something hopefully is in your day-to-day when you're speaking, that's not just waiting and seeing, hoping that people show up, because hope is not a very good strategy when it comes to growing a business. So I don't know, what your experience has been, but that's just one of mine that I definitely don't want to have to do again.
There are a lot of people out there hoping, right? It's the
Right?
ones
Yep.
who are willing to get uncomfortable, to have their ego blown a couple of times, to
Right?
to to have it not work out the way that they were expecting, and do it again and do it again and do it again. Yeah, absolutely. And it shows. I mean, we can utilize any example of icons that we have in our world today, right? Tony Robbins, Oprah, whoever, you can name any of them,
Yep.
and they all had significant seasons of, what the heck do you think you're doing? Who do you think you are? This isn't going to work
Yeah.
for you. Like
Yep.
them saying it to themselves and everybody else kind of saying it to them. But they didn't take no for an answer. And they just kept
Yeah, and
moving forward.
everybody calls that like the imposter syndrome. And you can have that like while you're driving or flying to your event, right? What are you doing? This is crazy. You don't know what you're talking about. I mean, I get this stuff all the time. It's crazy when our book went live and we sold, you know, the first day we got #1 Amazon bestseller in 3 different categories. And it was crazy because I'm like, even at that point, you know, that imposter sitting there going, who, you know, I called mom and dad because did they buy a whole warehouse full of books, or, you know, and it was just that it's always there. So you have to know how to deal with that imposter syndrome, how to speak to that piece right there, because otherwise you're going to be taken in a bad way. And when I can tell, like when I'm in an audience, I can tell who's prepped properly mentally, more so than we all know the stuff, right? We all know the words, we all know the points, we all know those things, but it's that mental piece of, you know, why am I here? And, you know, am I here that, am I disappointed? Am I struggling with something, or am I in my A game? And I just love to be able to sit under those people when you know that they're supposed to be there. You just learn, you know, like you said, Tony Robbins, never seen the guy have a bad day. I'm sure he has, right? But when he's on that stage, boy, you can't tell anything that's going on with him. So that's a great spot to be working towards.
Yeah, and it's all about your mind, and you take your mind with you, whatever level you're at. I love what you just said, because I think people think, when this happens, then I'll be more confident. Then
Yep.
I'll, and nope, you're still with you. New level, new devil, right? New level, new set of insecurities, new
Yep.
set of problems, new set of, oh my gosh, who the heck do I think I am? Right. So deal with it now, deal with it in the beginning, and then you'll only strengthen and grow as you go. It's not going to go
Absolutely.
away.
Yep. Yeah, it's not. If you're in, yeah. So if you struggle with that, welcome to the club, you know, and find a group, find somebody to be able to work through that with you. I have a speaking coach, Dina Patton, and not too long ago, I lost it like a layup, like an easy opportunity. I was like all excited about it, and we didn't get it for whatever reason. And it really kind of like it threw me, and I had to like say, okay, I'm really struggling with this right now. And I don't know why I'm struggling with this, but I just am. And so we had to walk through that. So I'm hoping that people listening right now have that sounding board somewhere in their life, whether it's a trusted advisor, a coach, whatever that is, a group, a peer-to-peer group, whatever, but somewhere to be able to walk through that, because we all run into those challenges. And, obviously, the larger the event, like you said, the bigger the event, the bigger the letdown potentially can be. So if you're struggling with the simple events, not with your mind, then just realize that it doesn't go away when you get bigger events. It's just in a whole different realm, like you said, eh?
Yes. And you're spot on when it comes to having that either person or community, because there are going to be those moments. There are going to be those disappointments, those moments of insecurity, no matter how seasoned you are. I work with some pretty seasoned speakers, and they all still get the butterflies, right? They all still have their moments. I run, as everybody here should know, I have a speaker agency, but I also have a whole speaker service that we
Okay.
offer. And part of that service is an inner circle. Nobody really buys the service for the inner circle. And I've heard this said by other consultants, other coaches, other service providers, where people come in because they think they need the service, but they generally will stay for the community piece. And it's
Sure.
so valuable. Exactly what you said. We're going to have moments and we also don't want to get irrelevant or stagnant. We want that person to help us push our own sort of preset boundaries, because who's ever grown muscles without having some growing pains, right? There is no growth
Yep.
without discomfort. You've got to be okay, embrace discomfort, and able to grow a business, and uh, able to grow your speaking business. And speaking is a business. It's not just this privilege. I think a lot of speakers come in and they think that they're so fabulous
Mhm.
that it's a privilege to hear me talk, and
Sure.
that is the mark of a person who's not really understanding that yes, it is a privilege for them to partake in those decades of your curated knowledge, but it's
Yep.
also a business, and
Yep.
you have the privilege of sharing it. So it's all about the mind, and positive polarity, I think, is just a really fabulous name, margaritas or no, because it really
Maybe
speaks.
margaritas, I said, hey, maybe, okay?
Maybe
Maybe.
wink, wink.
Yep. Exactly. Well, and I think you bring up a really good point about this, and most people are in their comfort zone on a pretty consistent basis. And so that is a great place to be, but growth really doesn't happen in the comfort zone. There's what's called the growth zone and the learning zone. That's where we end up learning. But in between our comfort zone and our growth zone is what's called the fear zone. And that's
Mhm.
where you're going to hear yourself give yourself excuses. You're going to say, "Oh, that you don't know my audience, you don't know my topic, you don't know this event, you don't know me." And you'll start to get yourself with some pretty good excuses, and that's the spot in the fear zone where you lack that self-confidence. And that recipe right there, if you stay there, you'll never learn and you'll never grow, because nothing grows outside of your comfort zone. So just really realize that early on, that yeah, this is out of your comfort zone, not just for that 30 or 60 or 90-minute talk, but all along, before and after, you have to get out of your comfort zone as well. Like you mentioned before, for that lady or that individual to leave that conference, even though there was a small group of people there, if she would have stayed and engaged, I'm guessing she would have had way more success. But again, something got in her mind. She got stuck in the fear zone and didn't allow herself to learn and grow, where that's where a lot of people are stuck in that fear zone. And then they realize, I don't want to have this, so I'm going to stay in my comfort zone. So I'm not going to speak, or I'm not going to grow my speaking business. So I would just encourage anybody listening to really, think about getting outside your comfort zone, working through that fear zone, and getting into the growth and learning zone, because that's where the power is.
How do you not get stuck in the fear zone, because we've all had something
Yep.
happen in our lives where it's kind of self-preservation. Don't
Yep.
that's danger, danger.
Right.
Then we've been told that stranger danger, right? We don't want to do the unknown. What are some of your tricks?
Yeah. Well, it's funny because I don't know about you, Abe, but I was taught when I was a kid, don't talk to strangers. So we went from don't talk to strangers to now get paid to talk to strangers. There's like, I don't know where this change happened, right? But a lot of this is in our mind and we get stuck there. Your brain is got one purpose, and that's to keep you safe. That's why if I said, everybody listening, pick up your pen and stick it in your eye, you don't do that. Your brain's like, yeah, no, that's not going to work. Well, your brain doesn't understand the difference between that and, hey, get on that stage and tell your story. Your brain's like, I'm not doing that. There's no way. That's where you have to start having the discussion. We do a lot of work with emotional intelligence, and EQ tells us that you can ask yourself a question like, what's the absolute worst thing that could happen? This is a really great way to work your way through that fear. What is the worst thing that can happen right now? And you have to wait for the answer and answer that question. I forget what I'm saying up there. You know, whatever your absolute worst that can happen is, you have to be able to confront that. You have to be able to work through that. And a lot of it is telling your brain. Tell your brain that. And I think that's like the audience challenge is like, you're driving to this event and you say to yourself, I have to do this event. I like to switch this around and say, I get to do this event. I get to do this. Just that small I have to I get to is going to change your brain's thought process. Somebody's there for me. I don't know who, but somebody's waiting for me there. Somebody's life is going to be affected in a positive way because of something that I'm going to share with that person. And you kind of have to talk yourself into it. And it's not fake because everything you say is genuine. It's not just, fake it till you make it type of thing. This is really being genuine with yourself and realizing somebody in the audience really needs this. I'm speaking right now. I don't know to who, but I know somebody's listening right now and they're like, man, this is exactly what I needed. I'm going to take that step. And that right there is worth the investment of time for me. It's worth the investment of time for A, and hopefully it's worth the investment of time for you, that you're going to be able to jump through that fear zone and get into the learning zone and the growth zone, because you will never go back once you get in there.
Powerful, really powerful. I love that shift in focus, right? A lot of us hear emotional intelligence, EQ. I want to talk about that in a second.
Sure.
But the whole thing is exactly what you said. You're in the fear zone. Your body is telling you you are going to die. This
Yep.
is the worst thing in the world. This is
Yep.
horrible. Oh my gosh, let's do something. Right? Let's get you
Let's
out of
run.
this somehow. Like
Yep.
that's what your body. But when you take that moment and you say, "Okay, what is the worst thing that can happen?"
Yep.
Maybe nobody's going to like me. I'm going to go out and have a fabulous dinner tonight, and I'm going to start over tomorrow, right? And then you're like, "Huh, it's really not so bad.
Yep.
It's that shift in focus." And then what you said, am I focused on myself or am I
Hmm.
focused on you who might get something from what I say? You're sitting in my audience.
Yep.
If my focus is on myself, then I'm thinking about everything, right? If my focus is on you, I kind of fade into the background and all those
Hmm.
fears fade into the background with that. And I get
Yep.
to really hone in on what is it that I can bring that is going to make that mini transformation in your life today.
Absolutely. I mean, I go to some of the same events every year to speak because they enjoy what I have to share. And I have people that come up to me and go, I loved what you talked about last year. I don't even remember what I talked about last year. And they start telling me what it was. It's done a great thing to my team. It's really helped me. That's really hard to beat. You know, a paycheck is great, but I tell you, for me personally, and again, everybody's motivated by something different according to their personality. I love when somebody comes up to me and says that. That to me, there's nothing else in my business world that really compares to that. When somebody can say, I wouldn't be here because where I am today if it wasn't because of you. I
That's your
mean, and it's
fire
not
and
that I'm
fuel.
anything. I don't take like, well, I'm the best. You should continue to learn from me. I just love that I was a ladder, a rung on their ladder of success as they're building and moving up into their career. That I love that piece.
I love that. I love that you said that. I have this saying for my community. What is your fire and fuel? Right? Everybody's like, what's your big why? What's your whatever? But no, what is that thing that when that happens, your day is made, right? You can do it a
Yep.
million times no matter what
Right.
you have to go through to do it, because it's just what lights your fire, and it fuels you. It gives you that oomph to keep going on. And we all have it, but sometimes things get so muddy and so out of focus that we miss it. So I love that you're in tune with that, and that
Yep.
that even if for whatever reason you didn't make a penny, that that was payment enough for you, knowing that you transformed the life.
Absolutely, because eventually, you know, money, it just happened. I mean, the positive things, when you affect others in a positive way, I'm a firm believer that it comes back in some way in your life back to you. And you know what? Even if it doesn't, it's not like we only speak to get something, because that's interesting that some people speak just to get that high. Some people speak just to get something for themselves. So I'm really intentional about making sure that I'm there for the people. I'm there to serve you. How can I serve you? You know, some of the event planners love hanging out with us because we are cleaning up the room after, we're helping them move chairs. I mean, we're there to do whatever we can to serve that community. I don't walk in like a celebrity and walk past everybody and just do my thing and then leave. People can do that, and that's fine if that's how you want to do it. I want to engage with the audience. I want to sit with them. I want to ask them questions. I want to help the event planner. You know, we brainstorm with certain event planners on what to do for next year's conference. They love hearing that. So if you can get to that point as an emerging speaker where event planners are calling you for ideas, you're going to be in a killer spot to really move that conference forward as well as your speaking career forward.
Ah, that was so good. That was so good, because there are speakers out there that feel above, right? They're not going to come a little bit early to meet the
Yep.
audience. They're definitely not going to stick around. They're not going to be touching any chairs, right? They're not going to be moving around
Yep.
chairs. But
Yep.
I'm with you, Dave, that the bigger you serve, the bigger you connect. And the bigger you connect, it's just the rule of thing. It's not why you're serving, but the
Sure.
bigger you connect, the more you're going to sell it
Yep.
organically. It just organically happens that way, because people don't buy a service as much as they buy trust. If they
Mhm.
trust you, then they're going to trust your service, then they'll buy it, right?
Yep.
There's many business consultants out there. Why Dave Molenda? And there's a big why Dave Molenda, because he's big on serving, he's big on authenticity, he's vulnerable, real, right? And he understands business, and he's got the data to prove that. So it's a holistic process
Mhm.
that's so important.
Yep. And I think everybody on this call has to have their own why, so to speak, like you said. They have to have their own reasoning to do this, whatever that looks like. And I feel like that's so important to really understand that. What's your purpose? You know, my book called Growing on Purpose was because I named it that because I ran into, and still do, I run into so many business owners that just grow by mistake. Ask somebody how, you know, hey, we grew 25% in sales. That's awesome. How'd you do it? And they look back, they go, I have no clue. Well, can you repeat that again? Is there a process? Is there a formula? Is there a path that you can create again? Oh, I don't know. I don't know what we did. which is great because you know what? You had great success. Do you want to repeat that success? Find that formula, find that path to be able to do that. And that's where the intentionality comes in. I know if I do this and this will happen. And that's in the speaking world, same way. If for the emerging speakers is you keep making the calls or you keep doing the behaviors you need to get in front of the right people, it's going to happen. And there are plenty of days where it's like, I'd rather be a cart boy at Walmart today. All I want to do is push carts around in the parking lot. That looks so easy. But it's like, you know what? And there are days we're all allowed those days, but those are speed bumps. Those are very infrequent type things. If that's an everyday thing for you, then you may want to consider being a cart boy at Walmart, because that might be your passion and that might be your calling. So it's just helpful to really be more intentional with your speaking.
Yeah, and understanding where your last success came from is okay, great. It haphazardly worked. You just happened to get a little lucky. Great. Now let's go back and see what it was
Yep.
that worked, because there was something in there that made it all happen so that it can be repeated. I love that you said that, because it has to be intentional. It's got to be, growth isn't always just going to happen. At some point, if you're not on top of it, you're either going to go stagnant or just throw in the towel, whatever it might be. And this is probably a perfect time, because I know by this time in our show, people are going to want to know, how do they find you? How do they find your book? How do they
Sure.
reach out and connect with you?
Yeah, super simple. DaveMolenda.com is the best place to go. All the stuff is there for you. There's all our podcast episodes. We are always looking for people that want to be guests. They maybe want to try being a guest. Maybe you've never done that. Maybe this is your outside the comfort zone experience. We've had some first time people that we've walked through the process. We've been able to successfully launch their episode. They've loved it. You know, maybe you're listening right now and you're like, I would love to be on somebody's show. I'm just saying right here, I'm offering that space for you. There's no cost to do it. As
Nice.
long as you have a cool message and you have something that you can add value to another human being, we have a great platform for you to do that. So start at davemolenda.com and then just go from there.
Dave Molenda, Molenda, exactly how it sounds. Dave
You got it.
Molenda. I know you're on LinkedIn. I'm sure your book is in
Amazon.
Amazon.
Yep, absolutely.
Great, great. Say the name of your book one more time.
Yep, Growing on Purpose.
Growing on Purpose. Not hard to remember. Yay. Yeah. Okay. Fabulous. So, Dave, I know that you are a fan of Speak Pact, so you know our signature question.
Oh boy,
And
I've been waiting for it.
all right. So, what is your challenge for our audience? What is that one thing that you can bring from your experience? If you do this, you cannot help but grow your business and grow your speaking career. We're on a pact to impact. What's yours?
Sure, absolutely. So we have our formula in our book, and it's talking about two pieces of your business, because there's three parts to every business. There is the product or service that you provide, there's the people that provide it, and then there's the person that buys it. We focus on the team and we focus on the customer. For this right here, I want to focus on the customer. I want you to think about the organizer, the event planner. I want you to find one or two ways to just think so far outside the box and help them with something in their day, because it's so powerful when you call an event planner and say, hey, how can I help you with this event? I know I'm speaking there, or I want to speak there, but more importantly, I want to help you with that. So really be intentional with that customer experience. Just think about the best customer experience that you've ever had as a consumer, and just try to emulate that and be the provider of that, because that will put you so far ahead of every other speaker that's just purely sending in their application, or they're just purely sending them a copy of their book or whatever they're doing. I want you to leapfrog them by being able to think of them as a customer and think about what's one thing that you could do for them, with them right now that would just propel you into a new experience with them. If you do that, and if your team does that, they're going to crush it. They are absolutely going to crush it. We're going to hear great things about the experiences that people had when they start thinking about that organizer, that event planner as a customer and trying to find ways to really wow that person.
Powerful, powerful, powerful. Okay. So, product, know your product or service, know what it is that you offer and why it is valuable, right? Really understand the not the pieces of the product or service, but the outcomes of that product or service, how it changes lives. Know that. Know how to communicate it. Know you as the person, the creator, the seller, the face behind that product or service. What is your
Hmm.
archetype? Why you over all the other people out there, right? Really
Right.
understand that so you can highlight that. And most importantly, know the person whose life you're going to transform. Know what they're going to know, what they like, know what they don't like, know what keeps them awake at night, and know how your product or service is going to help them reach their goals, help them improve their lives or business. So important. And I love what you said, Dave, about who who the who the customer is for a speaker. A lot of
Hmm.
people believe, a lot of speakers believe the customer is the person who's going to be sitting in the audience. That
Hmm.
is not your customer, at least not
Right.
initially.
Not
It,
yet.
it,
Yep.
it not yet, right? Initially, your customer is the person whose job is on the line for choosing you for their
Yep.
stage.
Yep.
You need to speak to their need, which is going to be different than the people in the audience. You need to speak
100%.
to their fear and help them overcome. Are you going to crush it and make them look like a superhero? Right. So you speak to that, then you can speak to the audience. But your first order of
Yep.
business is to really speak to that person who's going to be the one who the decision maker, the person who's going to hire you, that organizer.
Yep, absolutely. I mean, and I've met people that, they said, I won't speak at this event if I can't be the keynote, or I won't speak at this event if somebody's not going to read my bio, and which is fine. I'm fine with that. The reality is, you're not making that job any easier for that event planner. So think about ways you can make that event the absolute best. You want that event planner to get praised from their audience, from their association, from their board. You want everybody to be honed in and say, wow, Mr. Mrs., you crushed that thing. And then you can start to take some credit in your mind, just purely in your mind, and be appreciative that you helped somebody else gain success. Guarantee that phone's going to ring because association type people talk to each other. Hey,
Yes.
do you know this speaker? Who do you know that's a good speaker? I've had this association say to this association, you got to get Dave on your stage. And I get these calls. I mean, now I have somebody else selling for me. Hey, I don't even have to do it. This is a pre-sold
Voluntary
deal, right?
ambassadors. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, just fantastic. Because I moved some chairs around, or I asked the question, or I even said to them, hey, if you ever run, if you like, I'm at the event, if somebody else cancels, I can run interference, I can run backup, I can do a back to back, I can fill in if needed. Just offering that to these event planners are so powerful because they are desperate to make that show and that event a success. So do your part in helping them make that event a success.
Hit it on the nose. Yes, it's a vast industry. The speaking industry is vast. It's also very tight knit. We do talk to one another. And somebody could say, Dave Molenda, fabulous on the stage, a bear to work with. If you want a
Right?
bunch of headaches,
Yep.
call Dave
Yep.
versus Dave's amazing to work with. He's fabulous on the stage. Go get him, right? Go
Yep.
get him. Whatever you have to pay him, whatever you got to do, get him on your stage because you will love it. Be easy to work with.
Yeah, if
And
you don't have the right water, you need an airport ride. I mean, I can just imagine the higher you get in this, the more expectation. I want this person to pick me up from the airport. I want to fly this, all this, pick me up in your private jet. I get all that. The reality is I'm trying to make it as easy as possible. The best one is when you get 10 or 20 or 30 people going up to the event planner after the event and saying, wow, best speaker by far. Insert your name there. You're set. You're right there where you want to be.
okay, you just brought this whole flood of a story that I actually experienced. Can I share it? This
Yeah, absolutely.
a
It's your
really
show. You can.
it's
I'm here for the day.
we're
You're
about
good.
to wrap. We're going to go just a couple minutes over, but I just have to share the story. Okay, so I was a producer before I was an agent or had an
Yeah.
agency, and there was this, and I had very large stages. There was this one very well-known speaker in the natural wellness space, which it's hilarious that this was a thing, but this was a thing. He had to have a certain creamer for his coffee, or it was just like life
There
or
you
death.
go.
He had to
Yep.
have this certain creamer. First of all, give me the 411 before you arrive. I'll get you the creamer, right? But he didn't. And he arrived, and we didn't have that certain fluffy creamer that he wanted.
Wow. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. His assistant was so panicked and running around in just a ball of nerves. And I said, sit down. We're going to take care of it. I'm going to
Yeah.
send somebody to get the creamer, but your speaker is going to go on the stage. And I went to him and I said, listen, we don't have your creamer, but I expect for you to get on the stage. just like, it's
Right.
just like, are you flipping kidding me? Are you
Right.
kidding? And I never asked him back. He
Yeah.
was a really
Exactly.
big name. He drew a lot of
Yep.
people. I
Sure.
never wanted him back on my
Yep.
stage after that.
So again, for the emerging speaker, think outside the box whenever you possibly can. And, anytime that you need to connect with A, because she's definitely going to help you with that. She's going to be able to find ways to get you to think outside the box, because some of us are inside the box thinkers. So we need help looking outside the box. That's why, speaker agents are here. That's why A is here, to be able to help you with those things. So please make yourself available to it. She's going to help you in ways you can't even imagine.
See, he just did it right there. He just modeled it. Another thing that you can do when you're coming off of a stage or getting done with an engagement. First of all, thank you, Dave.
You're
Um,
welcome. It's true. I love it.
Yay. When some stages are one and done. You're probably not going to repeat that stage. Some are repeatable stages, some events just by their nature, they only have a speaker on the stage once and then they're on to another one. So if you happen to know of someone would be a great candidate for that stage, make the introduction, make the
Yeah.
connection. You've just made that organizer's life a little bit easier because you just crushed it on her stage. And if you're going to recommend a colleague, a friend, and a fellow speaker, not only have you done service to that fellow speaker, but also to that organizer. There's all different kinds of little ways that you can be just grow your value in the minds of those who are the
Yep.
decision makers. Yeah.
Absolutely. Great. Well said.
Lots of fun, Dave. You are so much fun. Each time we interview
Thank
together,
you.
it's just so we could do it for hours. So go find grow on purpose.
Growing on
Growing
purpose.
on purpose. DaveMolenda.com, and give us flowers by posting it forward. If you got value out of this time we've spent with you today, which how could you have not, then share it with other people. That is a way that you can serve your circles. So share, like, do all the things. And for now, ciao ciao.